folks. Today has been the day of tying flies. I mean, a day of tying flies. Solid. I think I'm up to something like 20 something flies already, and we're talking intruders and leech flies and all these, flies that take 10, 15, 20 minutes to an hour to tie. So with that, I'm doing another video. And what we're going to be tying today is this guy. Right there. Nice little marabou style intruder. With the blue up front and the pink. All pink. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to take our Pro Tube 4040 and we're going to cut off the back end to about 1/4 to 3/8 of an inch, and that'll be our junction tubing. Get that on the needle there nice and secure. And we're using Vivus 10-aught in black for our thread. You can use whatever color you want. My go-to is just Vivus 10-aught. Nice and sturdy stuff for big steelhead flies. Now I've got some purple ice dub here I'm going to use for my dubbing ball. Go ahead and dub that on. Get it nice noodle on there. And let's ball it up. There, nice. Okay. Now we're going to spin on some. Well, in this fly I have the glitz. I think I'm going to skip that. This doesn't need to be a flashy fly. This is a nice big bright fly. So we're going to jump. In the last one here I spun on some SSS glitz in magenta. I'm going to skip that this time. This is going to be for a river that doesn't need a lot of flash in the fly. Hence why it's also pink. It's going to be pretty much, it's an intruder, but we're matching the hatch of a pink worm, so to speak. Something that I know to work really well on the river. I'm going to be fishing here for the next couple of days, so that's why we're going all pink. So I've already got some Arctic fox clipped off in my tail here and ready to go. Just got to get a dubbing loop going. Okay. I'm going to wax our loop. Something I like to do. If you've been watching in my videos, you see that I always wax my loop because I like to be able to pick things out really aggressively and make sure I get it sparse as I want. So we're going to take our hair and go pretty much half and half on this back one. We'll kind of just get it where I want it here. Alright. Spread this stuff out so it really spins in nicely. It's a little more than I need for the tail section, but we'll see how this works. So you see it comes and wraps up into almost like a dubbing noodle. Don't despair. Get your whip finish tool or a nice good sharp bodkin. Not so sharp it's going to cut your thread as you're doing this, but a nice thin needled bodkin, excuse me, and start picking it out. Take your time here. Make sure you really get it picked out. Sometimes in my videos you might notice a little editing where I've picked out for so long for sake of time. I've edited it out of films so you don't see the whole thing. Or you can, if you had a brush ready, which I do, you can come comb it out as well. Okay, now we're going to get that hackled on. We're going to be able to pull all this back and wrap forward as we go. Remember, this is the tail section, so it's going to be a little bit smaller and shorter. Smaller in height, or girth, I guess, because it's the profile that we're creating. And it's okay, it looks like a wad as you're hackling it on. You're going to go through again and pick it out. You know, try not to trap everything down, making sure you're wrapping forward of itself always. And we'll get one more final turn on there, finishing it off. I'm going to pull everything back, and 1, 2, and 3. Good to go. Clip that out. Now we're going to make sure we're wrapped back up against that doving ball. Helps prop it up. And then we're going to go through and really pick it out. Top and bottom. Make sure we got everything free there. Oh yeah. That's coming out nice. Okay, so you can see we've got that done. Now we're going to take Spay Quality Marabou in bubblegum pink, and we'll prep our feather. We don't need the whole feather here, so I'm just going to take, so I'm stripping everything else off except for about a couple turns worth, just a couple turns worth of the marabou. You don't want to lay marabou on so thick that you end up with a mop fly that has no movement or function. So I'm tying in by the tip here, per usual, and we're going to stroke this all back. You can wet your fingers, have a glass of water nearby, or I just use saliva. My spit hasn't deterred a fish from biting my flies yet, so. And I chew tobacco. Not that I'm abdicating chewing tobacco, I'm just saying, spit don't hurt. Okay, I'm gonna get up and tie this guy off. Oop, didn't quite get it. Just being a little pain in the butt. There we go. The trouble with making fly tying videos is hardly does a fly ever go perfectly, which is what we're trying to achieve here. So you get to see that even long-time tiers that are experts or whatever at tying, they have these problems too. I have them, you'll have them, just get used to it. Just, that's c'est la vie, right? Alright, now we're going to throw in some SSS Sea Lice Silver Hollow braid for our body. And we'll just tie it in here. Advance your thread forward to where you want that to be finished at. About there sounds good. And we're going to do a full turn in the back, and then we're going to start wrapping forward. Here you can add some super glue if you really want to, or Zap-A-Gap, if you really want to make this a durable fly. I'm pretty confident in my tying that I try not to use chemicals in my fly as much as possible, but sometimes you just need it. Here we don't. Alright, so we're just going to duplicate that. The rear station, we're going to start all over again with some purple dubbing. And we're just going to dub a noodle up. Get that stuff back. See, one little lick of the fingers and that's all it took. Okay, we got a dubbing ball there. And we gotta get some, well, first we're gonna do another dubbing loop. You'll notice how long I like to make these loops so I can rest my my dubbing tool, my spinner. I can rest it and it doesn't spin all around while I'm waiting, or I can even bring it over into my material clip here and let it just rest. There it will spin a little bit, but you can always open that loop back up. So I'm going to get about a pencil's thickness worth of this pink Arctic fox again. And we're going to spin this in our loop. For sake of time, I'm just not even going to bother waxing this, but I'd like you guys to do that. If you're following along with the video, you will wax your dubbing loop. Don't let that spin too crazily on you. Here I want to pull this so that I can trim my butts. I'm trying not to let it spin too much. And then we're going to get in there and trim our butts, hopefully freeing some of these fibers apart. Okay. Go ahead and give it a spin. Alrighty. Take the hook on your whip finisher and get in there and pick it out. This one I'm going a little lighter on because I didn't wax it. I don't want to pull a ton of this stuff free. Fortunately, it's backed by the security of using a good dubbing spinner, so it's spun in there nice and tight. Go ahead and comb out a little bit. Wet that other stuff and get it out of the way. Now you can wet this and fold it back. Wrapping forward. Alright, that's got the look that I like. It'll be better after we pick it out one more time. Go ahead and get rid of that. We're going to stroke this all back and wrap back against that dubbing ball. And then we can come back through with our whip finisher, bodkin. And again, pick this out nicely, making sure we got a nice profile going. We got coverage all around. Sorry, I know you guys couldn't see that, but not much different here than what I usually do. So that'll be alright. It doesn't have to look that pretty because we're going to cover it up with some nice marabou. And that's after we put in just a little touch of crystal flash and purple, just to give it something. The other one has this as well. Like I said, we forgoed the rear flash in the butt. We will put on a little bit of this purple crystal flash, just half and half there, and then we're gonna tie it in. And then I'm going to take and fold the other half back over along the side here. Okay, And then we're going to trim it. I don't even want it that long. I just want it about a little bit longer than the middle of the second station there, or the first station. And I'll be fine. Now we have our bubblegum pink marabou here. We're going to take and get rid of what we don't want. And we don't need much here. Okay. I'm going to just get this to where I want it. Pop that tip off and secure that in. Okay. Now I'm going to just take and wet my fingers a little bit. Folding that all back. So there's 2 good turns. 3 and probably done. We'll wrap a little of that stem over since it's thin enough still and secure that in. Alright. Wrap this back a little bit, not too much. Starting to look pretty good. Looking like an intruder. There's a lot of movement in that fly. That's what we're looking for. And again, at the same time, it's all going to compress down and make a worm-like effect. So it will swing as similar to as if you had a rubber worm on the end of it, or a live worm, should it be that pink. Okay, now we have our last feather. Here's a royal blue marabou. This is a blood quill, so I'm using just the very tip here. I'm not even going to worry about stripping stuff away. I'm just going to tie it on and give it a turn or 2 at most. So I'm not trying to veil over everything here. I'm just trying to add a little contrast in with the pink. And this blue looks good against the pink. So wet our fingers and start stroking it all back. And we're using the shorter, the tip fibers here, so that it's shorter than the pink. And that's probably plenty right there. That might have been 2 turns. Okay, and we're going to cut that stem out, pull it all back, make sure we're secured in, start our little head, and voila, let's whip finish, trim that tube tip up, and take her for a swim. Speaking of which, I ought to get my test tank going, so at the end of these videos I can show you guys what they would look like in the river. In fact, immediately after this video I'm going to set it up. Come on, get out of there. Okay, trim our thread out of the way. We're going to pop this off the tube, or off the needle, and we've got just this little bit there. I'm going to take and cut it down to that. And then I'm going to take my lighter and just the blue of the flame, just touch it a couple times, and there you go. Pop it back on the needle just to make sure you don't close up that hole, and voila. Now for the river I'm going to, that's going to do nicely. Tie one up for yourself, give me a call, I'll tell you what river to use it on. Maybe go with me, I'll show you how to use it. Anyhow, guys, thanks for watching. We'll see you on the next one.